Dude, I want to thank you for coming on,
Yeah, of course, man.
taking time out of your workday. You work in recovery.
Yes.
You are coming up on 4 years sober.
Yeah, in October, it'll be 4 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It'll probably be October when this comes out, so
Okay.
congratulations on 4 years.
Yeah, man. It's been a good 4 years.
Yeah, of
It's been
course.
a lot of ups and downs, though.
There are always ups and
For
downs when we
sure.
get sober. But it's an honor to have you on here. I mean, you live the program, you're doing it. I've heard your story. It's absolutely insane. And I appreciate you know, your willingness to come on here and get vulnerable in front of an audience just to help someone else.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and especially being not that it matters with like the internet, but like the local recovery scene and being from here, like there's still kids I grew up with that are out there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a big part of like why I think more like vocal and kind of open to being like loud about recovery is because like there's kids I grew up with that are still, in this area, doing the bullshit. So can we cuss? Is
Yeah,
that
you can
okay?
say whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like kids I went to high school with, some of them are still out too.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a lot of people along the
Yeah.
way. Unfortunately, that's what happens with addiction. But there are people still doing the same thing. Like I'll be on Facebook and I'll get a message from someone I haven't spoken to in a long time.
Yeah.
Hey man, can I borrow $100? And I'm like, how are they still going? And listen, like I know it's a disease and I couldn't live like that anymore.
Yeah. I think for me too, and it's like a big part of it for me was just like, dude, all like they say like once the pain's great enough, like that cliche or whatever, but for me it was just like it got embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was like it ain't cute anymore.
Mm.
Like people are moving on. They're moving on with their life and I'm still like doing the same thing, looking around, and it was like social media was like a big driving force to me wanting to get well.
Yeah.
So it was like kids I went to school with were like getting married and buying homes,
Having
and like
kids.
right. And I'm like single, strung out, and broke. And I'm like,
Yeah.
God, dude, and it just gets humiliating.
Yeah.
And like as an addict, I really care about what people think about me. Maybe less now than I did, but
We all do.
right. And so I can remember just like being really embarrassed about where I was at in life and being like, dude, something's got to change, but like not having the will to change it, that kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
like I guess the fear of like taking that step and like actually doing something different in like unknown territory, because the majority of my life it was like I've heard people describe it as like everybody had a like a how-to guide to life, and it was always just kind of like we call it unmanageability, but it just felt like I like a broken compass. I don't really know what was. I always thought that I would just kind of figure it out one day,
Mm-hmm.
and then I woke up and I was 28.
I never figured it out.
Yeah.
And I never got the how-to guide.
Right.
What the fuck?
Right, dude. And I can remember that way before drugs and alcohol were involved. Like I didn't understand how people like went to school and wrote in their agenda, like in the 90s they called it ADHD, right? Like
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how you'd like plan your day and go home and like do your homework and bring it back successfully. Like I wasn't good at that kind of stuff, man.
That was unmanageability to me.
Dude, it was like I did well in like first grade, I want to say, and then after that when we had like real homework, it was just like
That's it.
and like nobody was holding me accountable at home. So it was like, it was such a mess. School was so anxiety provoking for me because I just like didn't want to go in and not have my stuff done,
Yeah, of course.
So like early childhood, just fear of like, oh no, I didn't do this,
Yeah.
and then you get in trouble for that. And then like the parents are mad at you and it's, it was just chaotic from the start, dude. And because of all that behavior when I was real young, when I was 5, they stuck me on Adderall.
You got put
So
on Adderall at 5 years
at
old.
5.
How many milligrams did they put you on?
So when I was 5, I was on 5 milligrams. Then when I was 6, they upped it to 10 milligrams. By the time I was 8, I was on 15 milligrams. And I was like a little kid. You know,
Yeah.
I was like below what a normal 8-year-old was. And then I got up to 20 milligrams, and this was
Oof.
like all pre-puberty. So so I was like super malnourished, underweight, like very hyperactive, and I fucking hated Adderall. I now later in my life I abused it,
Of
like, you
course.
know,
Of
way later in my
course.
life I loved it. But when I was a kid, I hated it so much because it was like, you know, I'd go to school and you know, whatever. I don't think I had a lack of attention at home. Maybe my mom drank a lot.
Mhm.
And my dad worked a lot, and then I have 3 siblings, so I guess I didn't get a lot of attention at home. I'll never, like, discredit them as parents, though,
Mhm.
because I had a good childhood for the most part. But I'd go to school and, like, act out, right? You know, like, get in a lot of trouble constantly at school. I was just like a problem child, and, when they would give me the Adderall, all of a sudden, I'm like I don't know if you ever seen that South Park episode where they all come in and they're on Ritalin and they're just like this? And like that was me in school. And I remember kids walking up to me and being like, What's wrong with you? Like, are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, just haven't eaten in 3 days. Like, I'm
Oh.
fine." You know? And so I hated it, dude. I would like try to sneak not taking it. And
Mm.
then my teachers would call my parents and be like, "Jeff didn't take his chill pill today." And so my mom would come down to school and like give me the chill pill, and I'd like begrudgingly take it.
Yeah, force feed it to you.
Right. So I think really early I learned like Jeff is bad. When I take this pill, Jeff is good.
Oh.
You know?
Dude, that's confusing for a
Yeah.
5, 6, 7-year-old.
Right.
Because
Right.
you also then don't know or understand your true identity,
Right.
who you are. You're bouncing back and forth. And also, too, it's suppressing, the medicine is suppressing who you really are.
Right.
So, yeah, that's
Well, and then
confusing.
any like normal like brain development too is like if we really look at what, you know, Adderall is, it's an amphetamine.
It's meth.
You know? Yeah, for lack of better words. Like I've been pretty twacked out on that stuff as
Yeah,
an adult.
same.
So, you know, I didn't know it then. I was just it just made me like tense, man. And I
Mm.
would get home and from school and like the crash, and then it was just like tantrums, you know, because I hadn't eaten all day, and then now like all the energy's coming out, you know.
Were you doing better in school, though, from it? Hey guys, quick update. Every Monday night, I host the Rise Above Recovery meeting. It's an open meeting for any addiction, alcohol, drugs, gambling, food, whatever you're struggling with, you're welcome here. To get the meeting link and weekly updates, just email me at kevin@riseabovepod.com and I'll add you to the list. Also, if this podcast has helped you, please like, subscribe, or leave a rating. It helps us continue to spread the message of hope. Lastly, if you'd like to go even deeper with Rise Above, check out our Patreon. Supporters get access to live interviews and can chat with guests after the interview. Thank you.
I could while I was there, right? I still couldn't go home and do the homework thing.
Yeah.
That was still like because it would wear off, and then it was like, but I'd get there and I because I'm really intelligent.
Yeah.
You know, like the actual work is easy. It was like the planning and the follow through,
Mhm.
you know, that was so difficult for me. I never followed through with anything. And so yeah, like and I never took it like as prescribed. Like I didn't abuse it, but it would be like I would take it for 2 days and then miss a day on purpose.
Yeah.
So it was like it was still so all over the place, everything I was doing, and like wouldn't take it on weekends. And so like I never got used to it, and it always was just like terrible, man. Like I hated it so much.
Mm.
And I want to say in like 5th or 6th grade, I want to say 6th grade actually. When I got to middle school, I was like, I'm not taking this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, my parents had kind of just like said, like, you know, let him do what he's gonna do, kind
Yeah.
of thing. That's my fault. Let me put this
No,
on.
you're good.
And so from 11 to 12 was the only substance-free year of my life that I can recall.
Okay.
From 11 to 12 years old, and then 7th grade discovered weed, which I think I didn't even like it. I really didn't when I first started smoking it, but like my friends did and they were cool and I was one of the boys, so it was like, yeah, we're going to do this, and I remember not liking it until I built a tolerance,
Yep.
and then it was like all I did. I was really really big on skateboarding. That was like it was baseball and skateboarding. And I used to get into it with my dad, like really like rocky relationship with my parents. So once I quit playing sports, it was just like skateboarding. And I grew up right here, where we're at now, and they have a little skate park right by my middle school. So it was, it's like the skate park, the middle school right next to each other. So we'd get out of school and we'd walk over there and we'd smoke weed and we'd skateboard. And it was just like me and a few other like degenerate kids that also came from very shaky households,
Mhm.
so to speak, like very rocky. Like this guy's parents were divorced and this guy's mom was estranged and on drugs and there was another kid whose dad had like a drinking problem and then my mom had a drinking problem. We all just kind of like hung out together and skateboarding was everything. We would on the weekends we'd hop on the tri-rail and go down to Miami and skate the city and film each other. It's all we cared about, you know. Like 12, 13, when weed and alcohol was introduced, like I think in the beginning for me it was like a look at me thing because I
Mhm.
would drink so uncontrollably
Yep.
and I'd get recognized by like the older skaters. You know, one of our buddies, his parents' house was across the street from the skate park, and his older sister dated like one of the older skaters that was like really good. And so the older skaters would have parties at his house and they would buy us beer and I'd want to be recognized, right? I'd want that recognition, so I would just drink uncontrollably. So like 13 years old, I'm drinking till I vomit, then getting up, getting on the train, going into the city, like whether it was West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, or Miami, and skating around the city and just like causing antics down there as well. Ironically too, damn, I don't know if I should mention her name, but Pam, she owned a skate shop right here in Abacoa. And so we would all like hang out there and this was like a big area, like a hub where we all hung out and like smoked weed and drank
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
did all
Home
that
base.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Um but and like I said, skateboarding was everything to me, dude. It's all I cared about. We watched like the same 5 skate videos on repeat when we get stoned. And so like 14, 15, we started selling weed and like Xanax was involved and like the skateboarding just got less and less and less. And like then it was showing up like too fucked up to skate. And then like, okay, we're skating on the weekdays, but not the weekends. And now we're, selling drugs more than we are skating, but we hang out at the skate park still. And like I look back at it, it was like this gradual just kind of walking away from the things I cared about. Um and kind of like embodying this, as the early 2000s, this kind of like trap wannabe gangster era
Mhm.
of like we're selling this and
You had a gangster face, huh?
yeah, 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 for sure, dude, for
You
sure.
didn't have the mullet then?
No, no mullet, no mullet.
Tight fade?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had long hair. It was just kind of like all over the place. I went through like some fade eras too. Um, we just got. I personally, I got like super into like selling weed at like I don't know 16, and
Mhm.
this was like 2008, right? Well, let's see, I would have been 15 in '08. So like 2000, I'd say like '07 through 2010, the Roxy's hit,
Yeah.
and like it just, I didn't do them. Was the crazy part, you know? Like down here, what we called anybody who messed with that kind of stuff was a baser, and it was like a really big stigma. If you were a baser, you were no good.
Mhm.
So I watched it like destroy some of the kids around me. Um, some of the skaters I grew up with, I watched it destroy. One of them's actually sober now, up in New York. and I stay in touch with him. But I watched it like, when I was like 14, 15, watching kids shoot up, and I was just like, this isn't, I was a party kid,
Yeah.
and kids like I knew one kid, man, he stole his dad had like a $30,000 whiskey collection, probably more than that. It was like two of these big cases of whiskey, like aged like whiskey, and he pawned the whole thing.
Oh my God.
And then like stole a gun from his dad, pawned that, stole all of his sister's designer clothes, pawned those, and the kid got banned from Plato's Closet. And
From where?
Plato's Closet, it's like kind of like a Goodwill, but you sell the clothes.
Got it.
So you go in there with like,
He had just gone in there with some.
yeah, like at the time, True Religion was real big, and like
Yeah.
Ed Hardy,
Mm-hmm.
and so you go in there with shit like that, and they give you like $10,
Mhm.
So he went in there with like just trash bags of like his sister's stuff, and I just watched like I was real young, and it like it was scary. I was like messing with Xanax and like some Valium here and there, and like
Yeah.
we were really big on ecstasy back then. That was like the Jigga era where everybody was on the Jiggas, and
Mhm.
like Red Monkeys and Blue Dolphins and that kind of stuff. So we were doing a lot of those, but the Roxy's, man, I stayed away from for a while. And
Do you graduate high school?
yeah.
Were you getting good grades too in high
No, no,
school?
no, no.
Okay, so
I was
you were
skating
like
by.
pulling away. You're an intelligent kid, but you're not
Yeah.
applying yourself at school.
Not applying at all.
Okay.
Like I knew how to cheat real well.
Yeah.
And like math, dude, math, like I can figure it out.
Yep.
I'll watch like the teacher do one lesson,
It's
and then I'm
logics,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really simple for me. All the memorization stuff, like history courses and shit, I would just cheat. And then I took horticulture, which is like agriculture class, and that was kind of like a reject class where it was like you had a few skaters, a bunch of redneck kids, and then stoners, right? And the first year you're in that class, it's a lot of just like plan ID and like kind of bullshit, like repropagating plants and stuff. But if you take it second year, third year, fourth year, then you're kind of like in with the agriculture teacher. And so there were like no rules, So I'd be in there for my second year. No, so my senior year of high school, I had agriculture for 2 periods. And there was my first period was agriculture, but we're third year agriculture students, and the first year agriculture students are in the classroom. So the third years are just out in the nursery, right? So we're building forts with palm trees and like smoking weed and shit. And then my fifth period, which is my lunch period, was my fourth year agriculture class, which was like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
So between that and then I had a teacher who was like, she struggled with her own issues too, which was like my last period class, and she knew we were kind of the kids who struggled. So that was like, those 3 classes were like the core of my day, and
They're freebies.
yeah, like I didn't do anything, and
Yeah.
I got A's in all of them.
It's great.
So the other ones I just had to like cheat well enough to get a C,
Mhm.
So yeah, miraculously, like I did graduate.
What do you do after high school?
Um So as soon as I get out of high school, I start selling a lot more weed. I start buying like pounds and stuff.
Okay.
And I took a job over at Rapids Water Park,
Mhm.
and I started doing like the lifeguard thing, and I enrolled at Palm Beach State College and dropped out the first semester. And
Like us good addicts too.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And so this was around,
2011?
2011, yeah, 2011, 2012, and then BHO hit. And I don't know if you remember BHO, butane hash oil.
I do.
And like the dab pens. But this is
Yes.
when everybody was like smoking it with a torch. And this hit the scene, and we used to call it suburban crack because it was like everybody wanted this shit, right? Everybody wanted it. So I'm selling pounds of weed. I'm connected with like one of my childhood buddies whose cousin is getting pounds of weed from Cali, like a lot of weed. And we realized like what's going on with this whole BHO thing. And it's like $70-$80 a gram, but it's only like $20 a gram to produce if you have weed in quantity. So now what ends up happening is like me and a few other buddies start making the shit in like mass quantity. And so like fast forward a year, I had like what ended up happening is I was selling a lot of weed and I was getting real drunk and going to strip clubs on the weekends. And something happened. I don't know if I was like drunk and running my mouth about money or what, which is probably the case. But somebody had followed me home and I was like heading back into my house. And I remember putting the keys in the door and somebody grabbed me and like put a gun to my head and zip tied me and then like dragged me into the house. And mind you, I'd always been like this wannabe gangster, and now shit was getting gangster. And I was like petrified. So like the next day, they ended up like getting a few $100 or whatever. They didn't get anything crazy. And the next day I moved into this apartment. And when I got there, like it was just a free for all. I was 19 years old, had like all this shit, and we started making like way more money than a 19-year-old should make,
Mhm.
you know? And mind you, like life is still, there's no how to guide. So like, I don't know like how money works,
Yeah.
I'm just frivolously spending money. And now
Coming
like,
in, going out.
right. And now like, I am like money stacking up too though. And so like, it was like, I couldn't spend it fast enough. And I'm in strip clubs with like a fake ID. I'm into the powder real bad now too.
Mhm.
And like I'm like a party kid who's got like too much money and we were really big on going out on the boat, right? It's South Florida. And I wound up getting arrested. This would be my second arrest for DUI
On the water.
on the water.
Ooh.
Yeah.
They don't play around here with that.
No. And so it was a BUI enhanced because I blew such a high blood alcohol level. And so I go to court or whatever for that, and like, they pretty much were like, look, you have to do this like level 2 DUI probation with this outpatient counseling. So this is my first experience with treatment. It was like once a week, an outpatient thing. And then they wanted to give me the interlock system, like the blow and go for your
Your
car, but I
car.
was on a fucking boat. So they gave me this thing called a sober link. And what a sober link is it's like a handheld blood alcohol monitor that like takes a picture of you to make sure it's you and sends a GPS location stamp to your PO. So I have to blow into this thing 4 times a day. And at 19 years old, I remember being like, dude, there's no way I can not drink for 6 months. Like this, there's no way. Right. So now I'm like, my whole life is this whole like trap thing, right? This whole lifestyle I've created for myself where it's just every day is like, I don't know what's going to happen. I wake up and see like what plays I can make to try to get this money, try to get that money. And now the alcohol's taken away. So I got a lot of time to just sit and smoke this hash oil, and sell this shit. And that same like transitional period of being put on the sober link, I get my wisdom teeth taken out. All right. And the doctor prescribes me oxycodone. Now, mind you, I had like skated by not doing the Roxys up until this point. The pill mill era was coming to an end. It was pretty much gone because it was like
2013?
2012, 2013.
Yep.
Because I think the new laws went through in like 2011.
Yep.
'08 was like the peak. And then it went from like Roxy's to Opanas. And then,
Oh, yeah. What did they give you? 5 milligram?
it was like so I asked for a syrup.
Okay. You wanted the cough syrup.
Yes, well, not cough syrup. They gave me
Okay.
Roxaset,
Oh.
which was like Percocet syrup. It had
Yeah.
acetaminophen and oxycodone.
Yeah.
And I want to say the dose was like 7.5.
Okay.
So nothing crazy, but I was like obsessed with rap music and trapping and like Gucci Mane and all them
They
drank
will talk
lean,
about it, yeah.
and this is where like, my life was kind of chaotic up until this point, but this is like the pinnacle, or if that's the right word.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah.
catalyst, right? And so I get this Roxaset syrup and like my mouth hurts real bad, but I know like this shit makes you feel good. So I drank like way more than I'm supposed to. And like that was the night I was like, oh.
You got that opiate high.
Yeah. And like every time I I took a dab off the rig, it just like increased the high. And I was just like, holy shit, dude. And the crazy thing was, I was like 19, 20 when I got put on probation. By the time I was off probation, I was 21. I didn't care about drinking anymore at all. You know, I don't think I bought my first legal beer till I was 22 or 23. You know, because this stuff. So I got the doctor to refill the script somehow. I just went in there complaining about the pain. He refilled the prescription. But by this point, doctors are really weary, you know.
Mhm.
And so after that, you know, the addict, the physical craving kind of takes off where it's like, I need more of this shit, you know. And I know a lot of people that do this stuff, you know, because but in my mind, there's still that stigma. Like if you mess with Roxy's, you're a baser. Right. And I was real like wanna be gangstered out, you know, selling this, selling that. So I was like, I'm just gonna drink lean. So I got my first bottle of hydrocodone cough syrup and like blasted through that. I remember going to a bar out here on Indiantown and I drank way too much and like thought I was gonna overdose. Um And this was also the era when Instagram was really taking off for selling drugs. So now I'm connected with all these like hash oil lean people throughout South Florida, like all the way down to Dade and Miami for the viewers. And so I start like kind of connecting with people on Instagram about like the lean game, right? And I start getting plugged in with like meeting these Cuban guys in Miami, and you know they're real plugged in with the pharmacies and stuff. And, you know, I had a lot of money. So, and lean was really expensive. You know, a dose of this shit was like $50. You know, it's
How many ounces is it?
the way you measure it is in fluid ounces, right? So, like, for me to get right, I'd have to pour like a 2 or a 4,
Mhm.
right? And which is a 2 would be like at the time it's like $80 to $100.
For 2
Fluid
ounces?
ounces, right?
Oh my
Right.
god.
So now I'm getting plugged in with these guys, and then like everybody in this Instagram scene knows that like I have the juice, not the by juice I mean lean,
Yeah,
right?
not
Everybody,
the hash oil.
yeah,
The
everybody
the
like well they
lean.
know I got that too, but and then I meet this dude, and I'm gonna keep names out of it because it's just crazy, but this one guy who like works at a head shop, he introduces me to another guy in Miami and I start getting pints from him. And then he's like, yo, I also got these. And he's got these sealed pharmaceutical bottles of Xanax. Right. And every time I go over there, he just starts pulling more shit out. Right. So I'm going down to Miami. At this time, I'm a suburban kid. I carry a gun, like the most ridiculous shit involved in this lifestyle I have no business being involved in. And like you've heard me share, I don't share about this stuff because like it's not like I'm so bad at like I had no business being involved in any of this. Like I'm soft.
Mm.
Like I am soft, bro. And every so now I'm like picking up 4 ounces of Coke and like 6 pints of lean and 1,000 Xanax. And dude, it was just like a never-ending supply of everything. So there was, you know, I think like opiates I was the most physically dependent on, and at the time it was really like lean, Xanax, and Vicodin, right? I would just get huge scripts of Vicodin and like drinking a lot of lean, and I would get dope sick, and then I'd go to the doctor to get more lean until my guy re-upped on
Mhm.
his lean, and um I'm up selling stuff, so I'm doing the powder at night to stay up, and then the Xanax to come down, and then I'm waking up to the cup again,
Mhm.
and then it happens again. All right. So I'm at my house on a Sunday night. I'm at my apartment and somebody knocks on the door and I recognize him. So I open the door and then two more guys. And I'm not boasting for the camera. I swear to God, one guy with an AK and then one guy with a Glock with an extension on it, like run into the house. My girlfriend's there at the time. All right. They zip tie me. I start like freaking out. All right. And like while this is all going on, they're going through everything, and I got like a lot of stuff in the house, and they're going through everything. A few of my redneck friends that I lived with like came home in the midst of this like stick up, So then they stick them up. So there's like 4 kids lined up against the couch. And then like my girlfriend's in the closet. And they have me at like gunpoint, like, where's the stuff? So I tell them, go upstairs. You know, there's a safe upstairs. And they go upstairs. They get the wrong safe. They get this little handheld one. I had like a big safe. And so they grab the hash roll, which is probably like $2,000-$3,000 worth of hash roll. And they put that on top of the safe. And on the way out of the house, it was shatter hash roll, shatter wax. I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but so it's like solid and it slides off of the safe and explodes on the ground. So they left with an empty safe and nothing. And like they didn't know it at the time, but they left with nothing. But like this freaks me out to the point where I'm like, you know, I was a wannabe gangster, shit got gangster. And this is kind of like the turning point when I remember like I had to use because I was so afraid, right? And I was so afraid to sell stuff that I had to use to do it, but I had to sell stuff to keep using. So I was like stuck. And
It's almost like live to use to live.
Right.
Did you figure out who they were?
I knew who one of them was. He's dead now. Not yeah. I'm not
Wink,
like that.
wink. No.
I'm not like that. Full disclosure. The rumor was that like something happened and like somebody got shot, but it has nothing to do with, you know, like me or my people. I was, you know, years later that happened.
But the guy that you recognized when you knocked on the door and you saw, was he in on it?
Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't even give a shit. He just showed his face. And
Right. None of them were wearing masks this time. And it was a back door because he knew my people that I worked with.
Oh.
And so now like I couldn't trust anybody, you know? And shit got really hairy from there. I like moved back in with my parents, which obviously like that wasn't gonna last because of the lifestyle I was living. And this is when like I can really start to see the decline of like the more I use, the less money I have. And like slowly but surely, like I can't keep up with my habit. Right. So I had like the moral conviction of like I'm just gonna be a square. You know, I'm gonna go to college and like do the right thing, so to speak. Like go get a degree and fucking get a wife and do that whole thing.
That how-to guide.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Someone else's.
Right. I was like, dude, everybody else did it. And I'm like 22 at this point, right? And like a bunch of my friends are up in Tallahassee. I had been up there to party a couple times and sell stuff. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm moving to Tallahassee. You know, I'm going to go to Florida State. And I don't even think at the time I was like, that'll solve my drug problem. It was more like I need to get out of this lifestyle. Because at this point, like a few other people had gotten raided and, you know, like all that shit was going on. And I could just tell that like this, you know, wannabe gangster, shit got gangster. I was like, I'm out of here.
Your time was running out with the police.
Right. So I move up to Tallahassee, and my first year up there, I was just miserable. Like miserable, dude. I had come from this like lifestyle down here, and then moved up there where everybody's like frat party, like cha bra, and and I was just like, you know, I have all these drugs, and I didn't really realize what I was getting into. So now I'm making trips from Tallahassee to Miami once every 2 weeks. So
Are you driving?
Yeah.
How long is that drive?
6 hours. It's 5 hours to here, and then another hour and a half south.
Okay.
So I'd like pit stop here. I'd hit a few doctors, get a few prescriptions, go to Miami, get powder, get all the other stuff, and traffic it back up.
Okay.
And mind you, like by the grace of God, I didn't get arrested during those trips because I'm a drug addict, right?
Yeah.
If you put me in a car for 6 hours, like some drugs are gonna be done, right? So during those trips, I can remember just like pouring lean and, you know, I'm smoking Coke blunts because like the Miami guys got me into that, and just like nodding out on the turnpike and that kind of thing, you know, driving all hours of the night. And mind you, like you got to drive through I-10 on the Panhandle, which is like a zero tolerance zone. So if you get pulled over with like a blunt roach on the panhandle, you're going to jail. Um, and so I'm coming up with like buckets of stuff.
Oh my God.
And so then like the second year I get in with these frat kids though and start selling them coke. And then like life gets a little better because I start partying real hard. I get off of the opiates. I'm more taking like Xanax now. I meet this girl. I start drinking every night with her. So I put the Xanax down and now like Crown Royal and Coke is my thing. So I keep doing that, and like I'm kind of like messing with the Xanax here and there, but I'm like I'm full blown like party kid now. This life is kind of behind me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's it was like 6 days a week drinking every day, and then like the seventh day was I would do Xanax or whatever downer I could get to kind of level out. Then like Adderall and Coke on Monday to like do a little bit of school, and then start the bender over. So I want to say fall 2017 at this point. I wake up for a game day in Tallahassee, Florida State Seminoles. It's, huge party school, so it's a big deal. And for whatever reason on that day, I'm like, I just been on a crazy bender, like alcohol, Coke, and Xanax. And I'm like, I'm pretty worn out. I don't think I'm gonna start drinking till like noon, you know. And I wasn't really paying attention to like the last time I took Xans, and I'm sitting on my buddy's couch. These are a bunch of like North Florida, like redneck guys, like party boys. And then all of a sudden I fall out from a seizure. And they're all like, what the fuck? And I wake up, I don't know what happened, but my shoulder got ripped out of place. And so now my shoulder's like in front of me, and like the paramedics show up, and they're like, yeah, it's a seizure. He needs to go to the hospital. So I'm like, all right, my buddy takes me to the hospital, and I'm kind of laying there, and they run whatever IV blood tests, and like the blood results come back of like everything that's in my system.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time like a doctor like looked me in the face and was like, "You're going to die if you keep doing what you're doing."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, it's crazy. I've mentioned this in shares before. Where like in that moment, it was I wasn't like afraid of dying, and I kind of was in my mind disputing what he was saying to me because it was like it made sense to me. It was like, look, alcohol and cocaine goes together like peanut butter and jelly. Like that's just like a must have. I'm in college, right? I
Mm-hmm.
do Xanax like sometimes when I need to come down, and like I use Adderall to study, and like every now and then I play with opiates because they're fun. Um, and like all that's in my system. He's a physician, and he's like, dude, this is it's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And but I'm I'm like so blind to like truth at this point in my life, so I just kind of like brush it under the rug and keep partying.
You don't even bat an eye.
No,
You just keep it moving.
nothing. Nothing changed. I think I stopped playing with Xanax as much. And like the following semester, I stopped selling drugs to college kids. So like I got a job for the first time since I was 17. Or actually, I think I like delivered pizza at one point when I was selling weed. But
Yeah.
like, the first time I've had a job in 4 years.
Yeah.
I remember making my resume, and I was like, how do you explain this 4 year gap? You know?
Let me ask you a question. So I've had instances like that
Mhm.
where I was stopped and it was brought right to my attention in my early 20s,
Mhm.
maybe mid 20s. But I always said, yeah, I know I'm bad. Like I know what I've been doing will kill someone eventually.
Right.
It's not going to kill me. And I always thought, well, I'll pull myself out of it
Yeah.
when I have to.
When I need to.
We're not there yet.
Right.
But I know myself and I can pull myself. And if you asked me, I would have passed a lie detector test.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you telling yourself that?
It was kind of like the thought of like, I'll just grow out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do like pain pills and Xanax for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's college, and like I always figured like I would die smoking weed and drinking,
Mm-hmm.
like at old age. But like I just figured I read a thing online recently, and it was like some shit about people who began using in a McDonald's parking lot. And it said like we thought we would grow out of it one day, but we were growing into it. And that's exactly what was happening. It was like in my mind, it was like college isn't forever. I put the drug game behind me. I'm old enough now at this point to realize, okay, you're from the suburbs, you're not a gangster, right? So like that's kind of behind me. I've kind of bought into like this, normal suburban go to college culture.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm good. There's I'm fine, you know. And yeah, nothing changed. I think at that time I stopped playing with the Xanax as much because I
Mm.
knew like Xanax and
Seizures,
you're
yeah.
right.
Yep.
So, but like the drinking got worse, much worse. The powder cocaine got worse. And like as college went on, like the pills went down, I think, in use for like I'd say like the third and fourth year. And then the drinking skyrocketed,
Okay.
where it was like, now I can really see like what you've heard me harp on, like the loss of control,
Mhm.
right? Where I really go out with the intention of having a few drinks and I accidentally black out and piss my pants, And so like I'm starting to wake up more and more humiliated and like not knowing what happened the night before, but like it's college, you
Of
know.
course, of course.
So and there's signs, right? Like we're having parties. I live in a house with like 5 frat dudes and we have a pool and shit. So there's like nonstop parties and like kids will come over and like I got coke and they're snorting coke and I'm smoking it. And they're
Mhm.
like, what's going on with this guy?
This guy's got a problem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. And but in my mind, I'm like,
Dude, I would have
whatever.
been with you smoking it.
Right. That's like
I identify.
it was, dude, it was really the Cubans down in Miami taught me what a dirty was, and I
Yeah.
loved that shit.
Mhm.
People always ask me, like, you smoke crack in sobriety, they'll be like, did you smoke crack? And I'll be like, no, I just freebased a lot of coke. Because I don't feel honest saying I smoked crack, right? Like I didn't, but I was taking like bong rips of like raw coke and getting bell ringers,
Well, the crackheads say they free-based coke just so they don't have to say
Right.
crack.
But like I really didn't. I never
Yeah,
bought
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
I never bought hard.
Yeah.
It was always powder cocaine, and I remember I had this little bong, and I like this little thing. It was like a hash oil bong, but I would put like a tiny little bit of weed in it, and then like a big old rock of cocaine, and hit it with a torch lighter, and then get the bell ringer
Yeah,
effect.
yeah, yeah.
And so like, what you do the math, buddy,
Right.
and
Did you graduate Florida State?
yeah,
You graduated.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
What was your degree in?
Here's the ironic part: criminology.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Criminology with a minor in psych.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So in the psych classes, I'm diagnosing all my disorders.
Oh,
And
man.
in the criminology classes, I'm like, yeah, that is what we do. So like, and I realistically, like, I barely remember anything I learned in college. It was like when you take a social science like that,
Of course.
it's, there's like 3 or 4 exams a semester and they're 50 multiple choice, and you may have a few homework assignments.
Right.
So it's like, if you can do a 3-day Adderall binge and study, then you'll pass the course.
Yeah.
And I graduated with like a 2 something.
Yeah.
So really, what's that?
No. What did you end up doing after school?
Oh, well, so towards the end of school, I think what happened was I'm working at this valet stand, and this is probably senior year. I remember I had to take an extra semester to get a few extra credits.
Mhm.
In my senior year, I'm like 25. I'm like a fucking 7th year, mind you, right? And because I started in community college, dropped out, started in again in community college, dropped out, and so I'm like 3 years older than every other senior. But I'm working this valet stand, and I start hanging out with this kid who's super into pills, and mind you, I'd kind of like dabbled with pills all through college, but like not really like that. And I'll never forget, right? One of the guys who worked there with me was like, yo, I got a plug on Roxy 10s. Right. And mind you, I'm I'm like 25. I'm still like kind of indifferent to Roxy's because of the damage I saw down here. And my mind is like, well, Roxy 10's really just a perk 10 with no Tylenol. I can do that, you know? So, and I hadn't really been playing with opiates like that. I'd been drinking a lot and partying a lot. So I remember I took this Roxy 10 and like that old feeling came back, that opiate feeling just washes over me. And I'm like,
The warm blanket.
yeah. And the little off a 10, dude,
Yeah.
which was mind blowing that I got the itch off a 10. And I was like, damn. And I had like, I don't know, a handful more of them. So I was like, let's see why everybody's so hyped on this. And I crushed one up and snorted it. And I'm like, oh, and it started something. So now I'm drinking and physically dependent on the oxys because after that, I just went around to everybody I could find that had pain pill prescriptions. And then one of my guys I met down here, he was up there like selling drugs. It was a dude I knew from Riviera Beach down here. And I got plugged in with him. He had Roxy 30s. So now, every single dollar from these paychecks I'm getting from the valet stand, which is all cash, are going to these Roxy 30s and I'm partying. Right. So I'm carrying around a bag of crushed up Roxy 30s at parties and pretending it's Coke and very, very physically dependent. My friends start to like notice, right? Because they're all like frat boy party kids, and there's like something's wrong with everybody called me Hefe at the time. Something's wrong with Hefe, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And I remember I got in a car accident one day. Went to the doctor, manipulated him for another script. Took a few of
Of
those.
30s?
No, they were Vicodins.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
but I manipulated the doctor for what I could get. And I got the Vicodins and I was like, these are, it's, it's not going to do nothing. But some kid hit me up and he was like, hey, I heard you got Vic 5s. And I was like, yeah. Well,
$5 a piece. Let's go.
right. But he was like, I got a Roxy 30. I'll trade you. And I was like,
Sure.
okay. Now, mind you, it's like 2018. So this is press pill era.
Oh, man.
Right. So then I get this Roxy. I remember looking at it and I'm like, this motherfucker fake, because when I was doing the whole street pharmacist thing, a lot of my job was deciphering whether or not shit was fake. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this shit definitely fake. But I already got it. And I'm like, I kind of convinced myself it's real. So I snort half, fucking first fentanyl high. And then I'm like, whoa, I remember I was like FaceTiming my girlfriend at the time, super toxic relationship. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go. Like, I'll be right back. I'm like nodding out on the phone. And I go back and I snort the other half. And then I fall out and I die. And to this day, I don't know who found me. I know I lived with like 4 or 5 other frat kids. One of them found me, called 911. I get Narcaned like 3 times. I come back to life. And the crazy thing is, dude, is like, I'm looking around. I remember looking at the cops, looking at like the paramedics and my friends. And the thought isn't, you almost just died. The thought is, oh, fuck, everyone knows I'm a junkie.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's what we were talking about earlier. Like with addicts, we care so much about what people think, and I was so more concerned with, they know I'm a junkie. So they take me to the hospital. I pass out. Right. And I've been hospitalized a few times before, so I know how expensive it is. And I know it pops up on my parents' EOBs in the mail. So I wake up at like 2 in the morning. To this day, it must have been like one of the girls I partied with, but I remember like a nurse or a nurse's assistant came in and I like opened my eyes and she was like, Hefe, are you okay? And just like kind of like brushed my hair out of my face or something. To this day, I don't know who it was. But I remember like it was comforting. And then I passed back out, woke up in a panic and ripped the IVs out and left the hospital at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So now I'm in like a hospital gown walking through Tallahassee at like 3 in the morning, and it was like humiliation was the feeling, right? Like just super humiliated. I remember I get back to the party house and I just like go in my room. I lock the door or whatever. I can't find my cell phone. I lost it. And so my girlfriend thinks I'm dead. And I lock myself in the room and I'm like, I'm never I'm never doing this shit again. Like, this is why I shouldn't mess with that stuff, right? So I just kind of like sweated it out for a day or two, and then like I think I found my phone or I got a new phone in the mail or something. I like meet up with my girlfriend. I'm like, well, let's go get some weed. I'm sick. I'm dope sick. She doesn't really know what's going on now, and I'm like, we go get some weed, and the kid's like, I got Zans also. So I take the Zan, and then later that day I go back and get more Roxy's.
Fake Roxy's or real
I
ones?
think these ones are real. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I didn't care though at the
Yeah.
time, and it just
Perpetuated the cycle all over again.
it just started over again and more vicious this time.
Yeah. Can
So,
you take us through? So 4 years ago was 2021
mhm.
when you got sober. Can you take us through the last few months of your drinking and drugging, and then how you ultimately ended up getting sober?
So the last few months, what's crazy is like the couple months right before I got sober, I was like doing like somewhat like well for my standards. Um, I kind of like tapered down on the amount I was using. But one thing that did happen, so I got sober in October 2021, and I want to say like summer 2021. I'm back in my element. I'm working at a marina. I'm selling drugs full time again. I'm very, very physically dependent on the fentanyl Roxy's
Mhm.
and like selling coke, doing all that shit again, right? Right back where I started at 28 now, though. And I remember I'm out in Jupiter Farms. I just bought like a bag of personal weed and was going to sell some coke, and I get pulled over by a sheriff's deputy for speeding and swerving. And cop smells the weed. He's like, "Can we search the vehicle?" And I'm like, I've been pulled over and searched like a bunch of times, so like I know the deal. Usually, you just tell them like the weed's right here, and they let you go.
Mhm.
So I'm like, yeah, yeah. He's like, is there anything in the car? I'm like, yeah, there's weed in the glove box. So I'm hoping he's just gonna like grab the weed and let me go. He grabs the weed, then he opens the middle console, grabs the money on the scale, and they start going around with the flashlight. And when I got pulled over, I popped all the fentanyl Roxy's.
Mm. How
So
many?
I don't know, 5
Oh,
and 4 or 5, and I was already on some, and like coked up. So he starts searching around. He goes into this Coke can and he's like, "Oh, we got it." And he pulls out like I had like a 7 of Coke in there, and he pulls that out, tests it, it's blue. Pulls out the empty pill bottle from the fentanyl Roxy's and swabs that, comes back for the fentanyl, anal, whatever. So now I'm red-handed with fentanyl, Coke, like weed, money, and a scale. And I'm like, I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, I made it through all that shit in my early 20s to get caught doing this, making fucking nickels, you know? And I remember just being like, dude, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I can't go to jail and be dope sick, And he's like, well, you could tell us where you got it. And I'm like,
ooh.
yeah, right.
They want
You
to
know,
bargain with you.
all my life, dude, want to be gangster. Now gangster shit is on the table again, right?
Oh, work
So,
with us. We'll let you go.
and I'm like, yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, of course, man. And so I'm thinking I'm just gonna like lie and manipulate to get my way out of it. I'm like freaking out. So he's like, all right, we're gonna call a detective. And I'm like, okay.
Fuck.
So he calls a detective from this guy drives from Wellington to Jupiter Farms. So it's like a 30-45 minute drive, right? And I guess they had like a drug ring out in the farms at the time that I had nothing to do with, but like they thought I did.
Yeah, you're coming from there.
Yeah. And so like I'm waiting there. Mind you, like all this fentanyl's kicking in, and I'm just like
Oh
becoming
no.
like increasingly fucked up. And this detective shows up, bro. Big old motherfucker. Walks up, fucking juiced. And he like shines a light in my eyes and he goes, Jeff? And like I look up and it's this fucking kid I went to middle school with.
Oh
Yeah. And I'm like, I say his name. And he's like, what the fuck, man? Because I'm like, I'm strung out,
yeah.
probably in tears. I'm like, you know? And he's like, what the fuck? Because we're 28 at this time, like 15 years prior, we were in school together. But yeah, he's got a whole, and it hit me in that moment. This dude's a fucking detective for the sheriff's office. I'm selling coke on fucking Mellon Avenue or Mellon Drive, whatever it is still. And I'm like 30 pounds underweight. I'm like, nothing's changed, dude. And he's like, he starts asking me, he's like, so where'd you get it? And I was honest. I was like, Miami. Because like I did. And that's out of their jurisdiction. And he's like, all right, whatever. He's like, so you're not involved in any of the shit going on out here? I'm like, no, this is like personal stuff. He's like, who's selling it out here? And I'm like, I don't know, dude, jits. It's South Florida slang for like kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, dude, jits. Like I've been in Tallahassee for 5 years. I've been back for a year and a half and been struggling. And so he's like, all right, throws everything and lets me go.
What? And do they let you drive your car away?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, you would think I'd be like, yes. But I'm driving away, dude. And I'm like, because my life is just so much pent up anxiety at this point. Because everything I'm doing is like a double life. Like I'm working for this marina that's like a municipal marina, so
Yeah.
like local government.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole life outside of work is completely different. And it's like the stage character, like living this character, you a reputation you don't deserve.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man. So I started making like an honest effort to like try to get off this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't, dude. I couldn't put it all the way down. I'd get sober for a couple days and then I would just be like, I'm just gonna do one, and then another 3-week cycle. I'd get on some Suboxone. I'd get sober for a couple days. I'm just gonna do one. And finally, after like 3 months of that shit, I just picked up the phone and I texted my buddy and I was just like, I knew he was still like in recovery. And I was like, dude, I need help, man. I don't know what to do.
You picked up the phone and you admitted that you needed help.
Yeah.
It was, I'm assuming, because rock bottom was just so you were at that point. The pain was great enough.
And it wasn't, the crazy thing is there were so many other times where like shit was so much worse, right? That was like 3 months after the incident with the sheriff's office.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one day it clicked. And it was like, dude, you are never going to change. Like you're not going to wake up tomorrow and figure it out. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and get sober. Like I understood this idea of like, I'm stuck like this, and I had been in treatment. We didn't talk about that, but like I was court ordered to treatment when I was 26 and like introduced to 12-step recovery and all that shit. And so like I knew there were people out there that like, were like me, that were still well and doing the deal. And in that moment, I was like, everything they fucking said is true. I've lost all control and I can't will my way into sobriety. I can't just like not do it.
Mm-hmm.
This was like post-COVID. So like, I don't really know, man. And that you could say the pain was great enough, but that day in particular, it wasn't.
Mm.
I saw truth.
Yeah.
And the truth was like, I think the incident with the sheriff's office was a big part of it. When I saw that kid, because I remembered him from like a 12-year-old at the skate park. And like,
wow,
he was like a man, with a career. And I still felt like a kid, selling dope. And
have you connected with him in sobriety?
I want to.
You really should.
I want to thank him. I can't remember his last name. I remember his first name. I really want, because I owe the sheriff office an amends too for like some other shit, and I do want to connect with him and thank him and let him know that like what he did that night wasn't for nothing.
Send him this interview.
I should.
That's what you should do.
Hopefully nobody gets in trouble for letting me go.
Yeah. So you make this phone call. Can you take us through what your first 30 days was like? And That's the hardest. I mean,
Yeah.
when you really got to make a change and you have to change everything if you
Yeah.
in sobriety. What was that like?
Well, so I called him and I started going to like recovery meetings, and I still couldn't put it down. So that was like September 2021. So the first month, really, I wasn't sober. I started going to some recovery meetings, like getting to know some people I had known in the past. And then I reached out to this girl. She actually worked at the marina I worked at. And I was like, I need to go to a sober living. You know, I need to be held accountable or I'm never going to stop doing it. And I think realistically, I was just lonely too. I
Mhm.
was like, I need to connect with some guys that are, sober.
Yeah, of course.
So she like gets me on the phone with my buddy Nick. I'll say his name because I work with him today. He's
Yeah.
like, it's me and him. That's my right hand man. You know, we work for the same company, Reprieve Recovery Center. Got to hit the plug, right? And so we work together. But he was on the other end of that phone when I told him everything going on. He was like, "Buddy, why don't you just go to treatment?" I was like, "All right, but I only could go for 2 weeks, and I this and that. I can't take leave." All the fucking reasons why
The marina needs me.
Yeah, exactly. They need me. Meanwhile, I'm like smoking fucking Roxy's in the bathroom, And God, I hope they don't watch this. But so he talked me into it. Whatever. He's got the gift of gab, and so I go to this little residential place for like 2 weeks. I lie about how much I've been using, so they don't give me a taper. So now I'm like dope sick in this place, like hating my life. And I remember the way there, I did 5, right? Like the last gun ho, I drove there. It was in Port St. Lucie. I did 5 on the way there. And so now I'm all opiated and I'm like, let's fucking get recovered,
Yep.
And the next morning I wake up and I'm like,
Womp womp.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Mm.
And so now, and I understand it now working in treatment when people get there and they bug out and they want to leave. Because I woke up that morning and I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. But I realized I was an hour north. They had my wallet and my phone. I just didn't have the energy to fucking argue that way. And I knew I was going to have to, it would just be too much. So I was like, all right, I'm going to kick it here.
Mm.
And got out at 2 weeks sober and back to full-time work the day after I get out into this sober living IOP kind of thing. And where I work now, actually. And so I'm going back into the full-time job. That job, mind you, that I've been using at, and this job that I hate, like that I really, really hate being there. And I knew I was gonna get high again. I was like, I can't, I grew up here, I've been getting high here for years, dude. Like everything reminds me of it. It's all I think about all day.
Mm.
And I'm still a little sick, I'm like 2.5 weeks sober. And so now I'm like, calling my recovery friends every day, like, I want to get high, like da 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 da. And I really had nowhere else to go though. I couldn't go home to my parents' house, And dude, I don't really know. The first 30 days, I got into like step work, 12-step work.
Yeah.
And I started writing
Yeah.
and I started seeing truth and started going to recovery meetings and I started connecting with people and I was probably like obnoxious about recovery in the beginning. But it's like the only thing I knew how to connect with was like the opposite of what I had been doing for the past 15 years.
Because they had been doing it as well
Right.
prior to.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. So for the listener who is newly sober and is feeling alone, you talked a lot about, some of the people, other sober people that you were hanging out with. You're essentially building a sober community.
Right.
You were meeting these people in meetings?
Yeah, I mean, I knew some of them that I had like been to treatment with. I was in the sober living with some of them, and then like other people in the meetings as well. I got involved in like a men's meeting. That was like a lot of guys that I probably would have hung out with on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years sober
Mm.
and had like it was the same feeling of when I looked at that sheriff's detective of like, oh, he's a man and has a career, and I'm just a fucking junkie boy. So then I'd go to these meetings and it was like, still like no self-worth, mind you.
Of course. That's
So
normal.
I'm like, I'm just this newcomer boy. Here's these like grown men who have lives and careers and spouses and shit like that. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I was like, I I want to do the cookie cutter thing. I want to be a square. I don't this fucking life of crime that I created in my fucking head at like 14 years old
Mm,
had followed me for 15 years, and like it was a facade.
yeah.
It wasn't me the whole time. And I see that a lot, dude, working in the field and like sitting down with younger guys, and it's like they hold on to this facade. The lifestyle was like one of the hardest parts to let go of.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who the fuck I was without that, dude.
Mm,
But I knew these guys were like that too, and they weren't anymore. They bought into the recovery, they bought into the being a square and paying your taxes and going to work and
yeah.
taking care of your fucking kid. They bought into that stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna, do that.
For me, I had the same experience. It was that credibility of they walked in my shoes
Mhm.
prior to. And so if they can change and
Right.
those genuine smiles on their faces are genuine smiles, and I can get that too. I could achieve that as well. Prior to us going live here, you talked a little bit about a year and a half in sobriety, you kind of got into a rut.
Yeah.
Listen, sobriety isn't we get sober, it's still
Yeah.
life on life's terms.
Yeah.
How did you kind of deal with that rut? And like, how did you get yourself connected back into the center of sobriety? Because I see you today. Today, you help a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your job too.
Yeah.
I know one of your sponsees personally, and I know the work your sobriety family does.
Right.
And it's truly admirable. And I'd love to hear more about how you kind of recentered yourself in sobriety.
I think, man, I got into this place where like, um, all my faith was in like my routine, right? Which is really dangerous. And I warn people of that, where it was like, I had like my first fucking recovery girlfriend, which I was like, we're gonna get married, and like, uh, I had this job, and it was the gym, the job, the girl, and then like the meetings or whatever. And what happened was like she broke up with me. I moved out of the sober living. Um, the job changed, and then I hurt my back and couldn't work out. And so all of a sudden, this routine was ripped out from under me, and I realized I had no faith in fucking anything but that routine. And dude, I spent like a month wanting to kill myself in sobriety, like a
With a
year
year
and a
and a
half
half.
sober. While working with other guys, while like leading book studies, talking about like freedom. And meanwhile, I'm like the sickest person in the room, and like I want to die. And the way I got out of it, dude, is like I remember people just being like, "Dude, like pray," and I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, bro." Like, but even like as much as I had like given up on all of that, I kept praying,
Yeah.
and I kept having like some sort of faith that like eventually this shit would work. So I kept sitting down with other guys and helping them. And like slowly it did get better. And one of those guys, as you know, went on to help like dozens of fucking people in reassembling his life and getting married. And since then, like I've watched his guys pick up like years of sobriety.
Wow.
And that I think like watching him have the experience I had a year prior is what did it, where I was like, all right, dude, like and slowly all the external stuff started to fall into line again, right? Like I signed my first lease, I got like a better job. My back healed. I got a different girl, which that ended too. But like stuff,
Life goes on.
right? And I realized, like when I fast forward, like 4 or 5 months later, I was like, dude, why was I tripping? And I try to implement that like everywhere because like stuff will come up, and like I'm freaking out about it, and I'm like, dude, realistically, in a month, it will have all worked out, and you're gonna be like, why were you tripping?
Mm.
So I try to keep that mindset, and I want to say after like I completed the third year of sobriety, which is like so. I used to hear people say like it's mind blowing that I'm sober, but like it is, because I had never, like I told you, from 11 to 12 was the only substance free year I knew, and I'm not on like meds or nothing either. So passing that 3-year mark, like something changed where like my fucking mind just got calmer. And like dealing with life on life's terms just started getting a lot easier.
Mm.
Um, and I've just never stopped helping other guys, dude. That's the whole thing. That's why I wanted to come on here, because I know like junkies in this area, dude, you know, that are still out there
Mm.
pretending everything's okay, probably hating their life. And they don't have to, man. They don't, you can drop the facade,
Yeah.
you know.
Where are you at today? I mean, you touched on it a little bit there, but what is life like for you today?
Dude, it's a grind. It's like a fun, it's a fun grind, dude. For the first time in my life, it's like exciting because I don't know like how good it's gonna get, and it keeps getting better. Like financially, things are working out, right? Like, you know, I got a good living situation, and like I can see the growth happening. Like more comfortable in like my professional life and my personal life, and like more confident in my ability to like reach out my hand to the new guys. And it's just, you know, people, they'll say like, you know, a life beyond your wildest dreams, and that's cool and all, but like the best way I can describe it is like I'm chilling. You know, I'm chilling. I'm grinding. I'm chilling. I'm like trying to better myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually on a regular basis. You know, and there's like tangible things I want, you know, that I'm growing towards, but it doesn't feel like I don't have a how-to guide anymore. You know, like I got the guide.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like it's within reach. Where it was like, dude, things as minute as like fucking what's it called? Applying for a lease used to be so overwhelming for me. You know,
It still is. No,
like
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no, it seemed like impossible. I
Yeah.
remember living in sober living, and it was like, how am I ever gonna even afford a down payment? How am I
Mm.
like how am I even gonna be in a position to do any of that stuff? And it just like, dude, I just kept helping people, and you know, trusting that like it would happen. You know, the company I work for is growing. Like everything's working out,
That's
and
great.
you know, I just have like for my professional life, I'm surrounded by like a good sober community. I have my sober community that I'm surrounded by good people. I have like the gym community. I'm surrounded by good people, and it's like where I'm at now. If I wanted to get high or drink, I don't know who I would do it with.
You'd have no friends.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
I've actually thought about, like, not thought about using, but like, what would happen if I picked up? I would have no one to hang out with.
yeah, it'd be so boring.
It'd be terrible.
You know, like who would I call? I guess I could call like one of my old junkie friends, but I don't even know if they're.
They're doing great.
So I don't. It's yeah, dude. Life's good, man. You know, like I like obsessed with being active now. Or like that 10-year period, I was like just stagnant physically and like emotionally and intellectually, just stagnant, and I can just feel the growth, dude. And it's cool, man. I think like this kind of like faith and motivation is something like I should have had as a kid. You know, I feel like every kid should think that they can do it, right? To be kind of like gassed up, like, yeah, buddy, you can do it. And I just never felt that way,
Mm.
you know. Never had any faith in myself, let alone like a power greater than myself.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like self-hatred and sabotage for however long, you know. So
Well, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on.
yeah, man.
I want
Thanks
to
for
thank
having me.
you for getting vulnerable and you know, showing people that you can change if you want to,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a life of unmanageability and destruction and harm to yourself
Yeah.
forever, and that we can change. So I want to thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.